All right. Welcome everybody in to our first inaugural Opus live stream here. We're here to celebrate that it's finally Super Bowl Sunday. The Super Bowl has arrived. It's been a long season, a lot of ups and downs for everybody's teams out there, and can't wait to talk about the game, get excited for it. This is a tailgate. I am drinking coffee, but because it's here on the West Coast, so it's only 11 a.m. But I did put some Baileys in it, so we're going to be hanging out here with the boys. I've got some awesome streamers here with me today. All of these guys cover the NFL, various teams across YouTube. And so we're all going live together today to talk a little bit about the game, talk about what we're excited about, and cap off this awesome NFL season. So thank you everyone for joining me here today. Can't wait to dive in here and talk about everything Super Bowl related. But first, let's jump in and introduce everybody that's here today. So first of all, we got Diggy. His channel is called Diggy445. He covers everything Giants related, year-round Giants coverage. He does a fantastic job with his channel. So let's give it up for Diggy.
Appreciate the intro. It's Diggy546. Only reason I corrected you because there's another person with 445 that I don't want to be associated with. But happy to be here. Happy and excited about Opus, and I'm hoping to see the Eagles lose the Super Bowl today. But more often, I'm just excited to see a really good game today. I think it'll be a really good game. I think these two teams, they match up really well against each other. So should be exciting, high scoring, big plays. And as far as my channel, I do a ton of Giants content, but around this time, most of my channel is just draft content. So at this time of the year, I'm open to everybody. Starting with wide receivers and linebackers, I'll be probably focusing heavy on that because those are the Giants' biggest needs. But I'm pretty much going to cover probably the top 100 prospects this year.
Awesome. Very exciting. All right. And then next up, we got Tommy and Mikey here from Mafia Sports Report. They've got an awesome channel that covers the Bills year round. They got tons of Bills coverage, huge Bills fans. They keep you up to date with all the latest Bills stuff, mostly just hating on their DC these days, but lots of exciting stuff coming up for the Bills here in the off season as well. Let's give it up for Tommy.
Mr. Mikey on there on the right hand side. Hey guys, we should be in the Super Bowl, but we're not. And we are predicted to go, and we we upset a lot of people, unfortunately. A lot of those people that were picking the Bills. Josh Allen also was supposed to be MVP. That did not happen. So a lot of disappointment in Buffalo. But this is going to be – I got to be honest with you. This is a really good Super Bowl. This is a good matchup between a really good defense, a really good offense. They are really well matched, this team, these two teams. So this is going to be a good Super Bowl, man. It sucks that we're not in it. But at least I could say I'm watching a good Super Bowl. So, that part I'm cool with.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be a good game. Absolutely. And then finally, we got BX Sports Jedi here. He covers all sorts of sports all across the New York. He claims to be both a Jets and a Giants fan. So I think we need to ask him about that, which is very interesting for sure. But he is for sure, he's been a longtime user of Opus. Awesome guy. Does a ton of amazing content. He's covering sports every single night, whether it's wrestling, MMA, all the New York sports that you could possibly imagine. Let's give it up for BX Sports.
Of the watch along because I do a lot of watch alongs on my channel. Whoa. I'm not on mute. Am I on mute? No, I don't have to.
No, you're good. You're good. We got you, man.
I was so delayed. Let's start it again. Live in living color. I am the Don of the Watch Along, BX Sports Jedi Network. We cover all watch alongs, New York City centric. We were proud to do all the New York Giants from Chef Dan, who covers it. I am born and raised in the Bronx. I love the Jets. I'm going to tell you a quick story. The reason why I'm a Jet fan is because of a damn movie called Flash Gordon. He was the Jet quarterback. And you know what? Unfortunately, I picked the Jets. I've seen the Giants win Super Bowls from 86, 90, 92, 97, Eli, all that. I love the Giants too, but my love is with the Jets because of damn Flash Gordon. Yes, because of damn Flash Gordon, I am a Jet fan. And I do all the different watch-alongs, MMA Weekly with my son, my partner, Chef Dan, Heal the Ring podcast, wrestling, not just watch-alongs, reviews, and so forth. We were lucky to be here on Opus. Opus allowed us to take our channel to another level. And today's game here, hopefully the Jets will be here next year against the Giants. That's my dream matchup. I could drop the mic on that for a Super Bowl. I'll win either way. But I like tonight the Kansas City Chiefs because those are our initials of my first and last name. And I hope they win tonight. I think the Patrick Mahomes is just a dynamic quarterback. I think the pass rush of the Eagles have 70-plus sacks in the season. But I think the Kansas City Chiefs will give enough time for Mahomes to make it happen, guys. So let's rate. It's gonna like you guys said, it's gonna be a real good Super Bowl.
For sure. So talking about the game here today, let's jump into some of the storylines we got going on here. Obviously, we got two great quarterbacks, both with MVP potential seasons, but Mahomes did walk away pretty easily here with the MVP. So let's start there, right? Obviously he's coming off the ankle injury. He did have a full week to rest here, so hopefully that is able to help him out and make sure that he's fully healthy for the game here. Him and Travis Kelce have been electric, but that wide receiver room for the Chiefs has been a lot better than expected as well. So, I want to let's start here with Mahomes. What kind of game do you guys think he has here today? Do you guys think that he's going to be able to put the team on his back here as he's done in the past and get the Chiefs a second Super Bowl under his reign? Or do you think that maybe some of the Chiefs' weaknesses here in terms of, wide receivers and not having that true number one wide receiver outside of Travis Kelce in the tight ends position is going to hurt them today? All right, let's start with you, Tommy. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so it's very hard to pick against the Chiefs. I'm going to be real with you. Very, very hard. I'm rooting for the Eagles. I'm not gonna lie. I want the Eagles to win. I have a feeling the Chiefs will win this game. I think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be high scoring, in the 30s. And I just think with the veteran leadership of Andy Reid, their offensive coordinator, and Mahomes, who's been there, done that now. This is his third Super Bowl. I think they have the edge because of that. I think the Eagles overall probably are a better team, but I just think coaching and quarterback is going to make a big difference. And I think because Hurts is going into his first Super Bowl, the coach is going into his first Super Bowl, I think that's going to work against the Eagles. And Andy Reid always usually has an answer, and I think he will in this game. But I do think it's going to be close. But Mahomes coming off the injury with the ankle, he's had time to rest now. He looked a little better against Cincinnati, though he was still a little hobbling. But he's had 2 weeks now. And you saw what he did even against when he came back in the game when he got hurt against the Jags. I mean, he still played. He balled out, right? He still did what he had to do. And then he played good against Cincinnati. He didn't play great, but he's had 2 weeks to recover. Andy Reid is going to, pull all the stops, man. He's going to do everything he can to get this game. And I think they were saying before that he's going to call plays that probably haven't even seen in the regular season or postseason. That's just the way Andy Reid is. He'll dial up a couple new plays that Philly's probably never seen. And that's the genius behind Andy Reid. So I have a feeling that they will wind up beating the Eagles just because of those key things.
For sure. Very interesting. I think, I think there's a lot to talk about there, a lot to get into, but first let's shift over to Hurts. And Diggy, I want to ask your opinion here. This is obviously his first Super Bowl, first time in the big game. He's only been a starter for 2 years, and really has only had 1 year of real dominance at the position. But that being said, he's got an electric wide receiver duo. He's got a great tight end as well in Goddard, and he's got a lot of really great running back options. And most importantly, he's sitting behind the number 1 offensive line in the league. What do you think we can expect out of Hurts here today?
I would say the Chiefs will probably feel good if Hurts has a good game today throwing the ball. And this isn't like me thinking like, Hurts can't do it. It's just more of like this Eagles team is so stacked. If their running backs are able to control this game, it's curtains for the Chiefs because Mahomes won't be on the field, one leg or not, he just won't be out there. And if Hurts is able to throw for a bunch of yards and it's Devontae Smith and AJ Brown strike after strike after strike, that gives the Chiefs a puncher's chance to be able to just go back and forth with them. But if these running backs, I mean, me as a Giants fan, I know if these running backs take over the game, you got their 4th string running back running wild on you, it's going to be a tough day. So I would say from an Eagles perspective, I want Hurts to have another game where he throws for 150 yards. I don't need MVP Hurts. You don't need an MVP Hurts on this great of a team. So I would want, as a Chiefs fan, I would want Hurts to be over 300 yards. Because if you make a guy who's, no matter how good Hurts is, I've been a guy who always thought that Hurts would become this level of a player, but no matter how good he is, any quarterback, if you make him throw it 40 times in a game, mistakes can and usually do happen.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you definitely, if you want the Chiefs, if you are the Chiefs defense, you definitely want Hurts throwing the ball. But what about Hurts as a runner, right? And when we actually look at this QB battle, that's sort of the element in here that I think is the big difference maker, right? Mahomes is definitely really shifty. He can scramble when he needs to, but his magic really has to do more with just being able to escape the pass rush, move to the side, find those angles where the DBs just can't cover, right? And then be able to make players basically make them wide open through the movement of where he's positioned in the backfield there, right? Where do you think versus a Hurts, right? Who does have that true scramble potential. He can move when he needs to, and he can pick up a lot of yards on the ground, right? And so that's where you kind of look at the two different pass rushes, both fantastic pass rushes. And I see where I see the Chiefs having a little bit more trouble than they've had so far is, they've played Burrow, they've played quarterbacks throughout the playoffs here who have not been traditionally mobile quarterbacks, right? So the question is, do you think the Chiefs can contain Hurts while still getting after him? Kev, what do you think?
I believe so. If they make Hurts into a pocket passer and not allow the run and just keep him in the pocket, you're gonna like your chances for Kansas City because Spagnuolo, don't forget, you should know that Spagnuolo is a hell of a game planner. in the Super Bowl. And just for that one game, one of the best defensive coordinators, I'll take Spagnuolo any day with one game on the line and win it all. My money all in on that, and I put all my money on Spagnuolo and coaching. Good coaching always wins over sometimes greater talent. I want to go on the other side. Isaiah Pacheco, Rutgers product, the running back. If he could give Mahomes some time on that pass rush with the chip blocks, or also time of possession, Kansas City has a blueprint of beating the Eagles, keeping the Eagles on the field, similar, and I hate to say it, guys, similar to what the Giants did to the Buffalo Bills with Otis Anderson, time of possession, keeping that on the floor, on the field, and you might have a chance. I'm sorry, I just wanted to bring that analogy there so you have a little bit of an understanding where I'm coming from.
By the way, I do got to say, though, real quick, the Chiefs do have a top 10 run defense. So I don't think the Eagles are going to just totally thrash the Chiefs defense. They haven't allowed 100 yards in the postseason yet and running. So though I like of course, the Eagles are number one in rush offense, but I don't think the Eagles are going to just dominate the run game in this. I understand what you're saying, time of possession, all that stuff, but I don't see that happening. Also, too, Jalen Hurts is still not 100% right. Still dealing with the shoulder, still dealing with that like shoulder chest kind of injury. So listen, if the Chiefs even can contain a little bit of that Eagles rush offense, it's going to be interesting to see if Hurts can, be what he was week 1 through 15 before the injury in Chicago. I don't think so. I don't think you'll see a 300-yard pass game from him. That's why they, when their first playoff game, they kind of ran the ball a lot more. Even when he returned back in week 17, they were a little hesitant with him, which is understandable. But yeah, I think that, like I said, man, this is a very well matched game as far as offense versus defense. They're both, I think, top 10 in both categories. So that's why I was saying this is going to be, I think, a very close game. But I think if the Chiefs can contain that run and just leave it into Hurts' hands because of the injury, that's where I think the Chiefs edge out this game.
For sure. That makes sense. Well, before we move on to talk a little bit more about the defenses here, let's ask our audience what they think. Go ahead and put some replies in the comments, guys. We'll set up a poll here and see how it goes. Who's going to be the better QB today? Mahomes or Hurts? I want to hear it from you guys.
So why that's going on, Connor? I just listened to all three of them, and no one talked about that rookie secondary in KC. They're starting 3 rookies, 1 undrafted rookie.
Yep.
So when we look at it, and yes, Hurts is young and inexperienced in Super Bowl, but so is that entire secondary. Because their one veteran secondary player is Justin Reed, who comes from the Texans, who's never smelled the playoffs.
Yeah.
Really. So, that'll be interesting, too, to see what Spagnuolo can do with that young secondary. For
sure. That makes sense. I think, I mean, it is definitely a young secondary. And I do think that these teams have a lot going for them both. But you are looking at a player still that's overall more experienced in Mahomes as well. So, I think it's interesting that, we've got a Josh Allen response here in the chat. He was the prince that was promised, but unfortunately, fell short pretty horrifically come playoff time. So,
damn it. Can I be honest with that really quick?
Yeah.
You look at the offensive line of the 2 people who were in the Super Bowl, and then look at the Bills' offensive line. That will tell you everything you need to know. It's all about the trenches. Look at these 2 teams. They are in the top tier of both offense and defensive lines. You look at the Bills, that's truly where Josh Allen makes the Bills' offensive line looks better because he can run around and escape. It's night and day compared to these 2. So it's funny to hear people say, he was hyped up. Well, yeah, after that Kansas City game last year, Josh Allen looked like the part. But if you go back and watch that Kansas City game, Josh Allen was running away from guys every play, just making things happen. The difference was we brought in Roger Saffold, who just got pushed right back into him. So Josh didn't have anywhere to go this year.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that is, to feed off that, I say that every season. Like I try to tell that to people. It's like if you gotta have an offensive line. Like Tom Brady was well protected throughout his career. Like when he played for Tampa, when he went to Tampa, he wasn't going to go to another team that had a crap offensive line. Like that's if you give your quarterback time, I don't care if he's an average quarterback, he's going to look good, right? But if you give your quarterback no time and he's a great quarterback, he's going to look good to average. I mean, it's just the way it works, especially if you don't have a mobile quarterback. Luckily, like Mikey's saying, Josh Allen can avoid that. But if you saw this season with our team, at least, this season, Josh Allen wasn't getting away like he normally was because it was collapsing from all angles now. And that was our downfall. That was when Cincinnati came, when Miami. Matter of fact, if you saw the wild card game, Miami really is what exposed us, in my opinion. Miami exposed us by bringing it all a pass rush, a blitz on all angles, and we barely won that game, and we were the better team. And then Cincinnati just repeated it, and we had nowhere to go. And then same with the defensive line. Our defensive line was overhyped, and it showed. And once Von Miller went down, it really showed. And, there was, I would say the only guy that showed out was Daquan Jones, who didn't even play against the Bengals game. So, yeah, listen, in the trenches is where this battle is won. And this Super Bowl will show it. It really will.
For sure. I agree completely. And that's why jumping into our defensive segment here, that's where I have so much concern about Mahomes. We saw what happened, I guess 2 weeks ago now in the NFC Championship game to the poor 49ers and their quarterbacks who just got absolutely eaten alive by that Eagles pass rush with a record 70 sacks, which is the most sacks in a single season I think we've had in a while. And they're up to 78 if you include their 2 postseason games. Absolutely blistering pace for this Philly defense. And the thing that, in my opinion, that makes this Philly defensive trenches so scary is just how deep they are, right? They've got so many different guys that they're rotating between. They got their first round pick. They got they've got Hargrave. Obviously, the Cox is still around playing at a really high level. And a reason that they're getting a lot of these guys who are a little bit older to play at such a high level is because they're so deep. They're able to rotate these guys in and out so much, keep them fresh. And I think it says a lot about roster building, right? As a Bears fan, right, we put so much money into Khalil Mack, and then we dumped even more money into what's his name? The guy that we traded for a 4th round pick here, Robert Quinn. We dumped so much money into these 2 guys and then didn't have a lot of depth behind them. And as soon as they got tired, our pass rush would start to fall apart. And that's where I see the Eagles as being so scary because they do have so many options and so much depth there on the defensive line. And so the question really becomes, do you think that Mahomes really will be able to survive this whole game? Hopefully not just from an injury standpoint, but also from just the standpoint of, if they get down against this Eagles team even a little bit and they have to start throwing really consistently, can Mahomes sit back there and take this Eagles pass rush? What do you guys think?
One thing
Mikey, looks like Mikey wants
to I think so.
What are you saying, Mikey?
It's fine. I think that's where it's all going to come down. I think it's going to come down to the right tackle and the left end, honestly. When you look at these 2 defensive line, offensive lines, those 2, they're both top tier. They're probably both, I would think they both end up in the top 5 on both sides of the ball. I think the weak link on the Chiefs offensive line is that right tackle. And then you have Reddick coming off the end, who is the unsung hero for the Eagles, who's probably their most explosive pass rusher. So if they can find a way to neutralize, and maybe that is using Pacheco to chip, maybe that is using one of their 3 tight ends in their big sets to set. Andy Reid's not a dummy. He's going to figure out how to slow that down. And what Orlando Brown do you get? Do you get the all-pro Orlando Brown? Or do you get that Orlando Brown who's been coming up, short in big games that's allowed it? So, I think their interior is super strong, and that's probably the strongest part of theirs. I think their 2 tackles, although Orlando Brown, I think, may be a little bit overrated, especially the way he played this year. But, yeah, I really think it comes down to that right tackle. That matchup's going to – because if they can find a way to control that and you give Mahomes time to run around and find guys open, you can cover Travis Kelce for about 2.5 seconds. And then he just finds a way to get open. I don't care how many guys you put on him. You see, got 3 guys on him, and he's still running away from them. So I really think it comes down to that position.
And they only given up. I got to say too, the Chiefs O-line only given up 3 sacks this postseason. Yep. So it's not like they are.
Yeah, Mahomes runs around.
No, I know. He
doesn't run like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. He'll run in circles and then
circles or backwards.
The dude's impressive. I hate him because he's the Chief.
You also got to give credit. You also got to give credit to Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator. He's a former running back who's going to incorporate his running backs, like I said, to block Hilaire, Pacheco. Give enough time, not just for Kelsey. Don't forget Tavanius Toney as well in the slot, running havoc. He is an afterburner. If you give that little bit of time to Mahomes, they just need, he gets the ball quickly out. He is smart. He has eyes on the side of his head. This is why I really like the Kansas City's offense, despite all these sacks given up by the Eagles. But if you buy time, Bieniemy, and Andy Reid, one of the smartest coaches in the NFL, puts up a good game plan, I can't go against the Kansas City offense to score points on this Eagles defense.
Exactly. Not only do they got speed, but they got the best tight end in the game, man. Who NFL defenses to this day still do not have an answer.
Yeah,
and they're the most underrated
you
slot
really can't
receiver.
Like guard a tight end. Like if a tight end is a dominant player, you cannot shut that guy down. And if you do devote the resources to shutting that guy down, MVS is going to be one-on-one downfield. Kadarius Toney, listen, if we traded away Kadarius Toney so he could beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, I'm very happy about that trade. But Kadarius Toney should be able to, his skill set, he should be able to beat guys deep too. He should be able to catch the ball short.
That was a very good trade, by the way, by the Chief for the Chiefs.
But you see what the guy does. I mean, what happens here, and like people made jokes about it, but I think this past game kind of showed it. He is too shifty for his own body. Like he tried to juke someone out last game and he got hurt. And I really think that's how he keeps getting hurt. But if Mahomes can get the ball out quickly to start, get it out to Pacheco, get it out to Kadarius Toney, get it out to Travis Kelce quickly. If he can do that to start the game off, the Eagles defense, they won't be able to just pin their ears back. And of course, if they can get the running game going too, they won't be able to just pin their ears back and go to a certain spot on the field every time. So after that happens, that's when you hit the play action and you can take those deep shots to MVS and you can, do pretty much open up the entire playbook. And I expect Andy Reid, to go into this game trying to set that up, something to kind of slow down that Eagles pass rush. And, as someone who's seen Andy Reid coach my whole life, I doubt it's going to be running the ball. He doesn't like to run the ball, but probably some other way he'll set up to be able to try to open up the entire playbook against the pass rush, because Reddick one-on-one against anybody is a nightmare. It just doesn't matter who he was playing against.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny? You guys talked about all the weapons, and no one talked about the playoff veteran, Juju Smith-Schuster.
That's true.
He's a playoff veteran who always comes up big, and he did it with the Steelers. And I guess he became the quiet veteran in that receiving core who, when you need it, you can go to him. And he comes through. I mean, watch out for that guy. He can be the X factor this weekend, or this big game.
Mikey throwing out a prop bet that he likes. I'm watching you, Mikey, putting out your prop bet.
Listen, I don't want the Chiefs to win. I don't. But man, it's hard to bet against Mahomes and Andy Reid. I believe that the Chiefs have the coaching advantage and the quarterback advantage. And when you have both of those, you tend to win more than not.
That's what wins Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Coaches and quarterbacks.
But I think you're also onto something with the rush attack, right? Like, Eagles, if they do have one weakness on that defense, it is that they're 15th against the rush last season. You can run on them. My Bears ran all over the Eagles when we played them and actually put up
all over them. That game was crazy.
Yeah, that game was wild. So I think, if Andy Reid is going to change something up and surprise people, I think it could be leaning a little bit more on Isaiah Pacheco's resurgence here, especially in the postseason, on that run game, and mixing up how he did last week against against a good Bengals or 2 weeks ago against a good Bengals defense, where he uses the run to draw in the defenders and then just leaves Kelsey wide open over the middle over and over again, and just picks the Eagles linebackers.
Or McKinnon out of the backfield for an anytime touchdown all day, baby.
Yeah.
McKinnon anytime touchdown. I think he ended with like 14 of them this year.
Yeah, exactly.
And he played half the season.
Yeah. But I think overall, if the Chiefs have one thing that could undo them in this game, it is time of possession. And that's because the Eagles are just so dang good at keeping themselves on the field and keeping the ball out of their opponent's hands. So let's take a look at this Chiefs defense now and how it stacks up against this Eagles offense. Obviously second in the league, just behind the Eagles at 55 sacks, but it's still a huge gap from 70 to 55 on the season. And then you have the 8th ranked rush defense. So they do have a pretty good rush D. And if they can do a good job stopping the Kansas City Chiefs from establishing any kind of run in the game, they will have a chance. But that 19th ranked pass defense overall does worry me against the weapons that the Eagles have. Do you think that the Eagles have enough here to be able the Eagles have enough here to be able to just completely roll over the Chiefs defense or not?
I don't think so.
What worries me is that 29th in red zone, or that 29th in the league in red zone defense. If they get in the red zone, you can have bend but don't break. We've seen that for a lot of teams, especially in the postseason. If the Kansas City defense could bend but don't break, they're going to keep it and limit them to field goals, not touchdowns. That's the name of the game there. And I think that's the main key there. And 55 sacks is nothing to sneeze about either. They're second there. I know it's not 70, but still, there's nothing to sneeze. They still get to the quarterback. They still get the pressure with, like we mentioned earlier, Jalen Hurts with his shoulder and upper body issues. That's going to be a problem. If they could get there and just put a pressure, knock him down his butt a couple of times there, that could go a long way. He falls on his shoulder, you never know.
Yeah. That's fair for sure. But again, I think that the overall strength of the pass catchers in Philly, I do think there's a mismatch there with the Kansas City secondary, and that's where my real point of concern is. Right, is even if the Eagles aren't getting 30 yard runs on this Chiefs D, if they can force the Chiefs D to pack the box to stop the run and really get the Chiefs to focus on the run, those pass catchers in Philly are going to find big holes. They are going to find openings. I mean, I don't no idea how you stop those two guys. Throughout the course of the season, AJ Brown just keeps making these catches that nobody should be able to make, and Hurts has been putting the ball perfectly where he needs to, time and time again. And so that's where I see, that's where I personally think might be the biggest single mismatch is if the Eagles can do enough on the ground game, especially in the first half, to make the Chiefs concerned about it. I think that the Chiefs offensive passing is going to, the Eagles offensive passing is just going to completely take off here. And it's going to be harder and harder for Mahomes to keep up, especially when he's forced into those obvious passing situations, and then the Eagles D can start to feast on him. So that's where I'm leaning right now, but anybody feel differently?
I have two things. I have two things there. The first is, as someone who's seen the Eagles the last 5 weeks, or not 5 real-time weeks, AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts connection went from probably the best connection in the league to they just have not been able to get on the same page this entire postseason. Week 18, I'm also an LSU fan, and the rookie corner out of LSU, Cordell Flatt, was one-on-one with AJ Brown and pretty much shut him down. And it wasn't all because some of it was just good play by the cornerback, but some of it was just they're out of sync. So it's interesting to see if they'll all of a sudden get back in sync this week, or if that continues, because if it does, that's obviously huge and that takes away a guy. The second thing is, let's not forget Lane Johnson is playing severely handicapped right now. I think he has a hernia. And he basically said it all but said it, came out and said it, to the media. He's basically one hit to the gut away from having to come out of the game and being done. So he's got to have surgery right after this season. And I really, as a football fan, I hope that he does not have to leave the game and he doesn't get hurt. But if he does get banged up and can't play, that changes the entire Eagles offense. It changes the ability to run and pass the ball. And of course, that of course would change their ability to make big plays.
That's very fair. That's very fair. And I do think that, if there's one thing we've seen, the Chiefs defense specifically have a hard time in previous postseasons, right? That's been different this year. It has been the pass rush, right? Dee Ford, I thought it was crazy that he had never had a sack in the postseason before last week. And last week, he absolutely wrecked the game. So if they can keep up that kind of performance here this weekend or today, actually, I think we're going to be in for a long day potentially for Hurts. But again, that shiftiness of Hurts does add that extra factor. That's why I'm so excited for the game today. Both these quarterbacks just have that ability to make plays. And I do think that there is, if there's one thing that the Chiefs really do have going for them more than anything else, it is that experience factor for Mahomes, right? I do think that Hurts, if they're both facing a ton of pressure all day, the quarterback that has more experience in these tight pressure games is less likely to make mistakes. And I do think the Chiefs have a big advantage there. But, just moving on a little bit from the game itself and talking a little bit more about sort of all the media that's been going on around the game, I have to say this year has felt like over the last, 2 weeks, even with the Pro Bowl in the middle being as boring as ever, we had a lot of really, really good, news media, just NFL coverage here leading up to the big game, more so than I can remember in a long time. We had a lot of young quarterbacks coming to Arizona to do awesome interviews, right? I got to see a lot of Fields interviews, which were great. Trey Lance was there. A bunch of other guys were there. We got to get a lot of more insights, I feel like, about sort of the wrap up of the season than we have in the past. But probably there's been no bigger sort of media cycle over the last 2 weeks than all of the skill players specifically of the 49ers just being some of the saltiest guys that I think I can remember in playoff history. You had Brandon Ayuk saying that the Eagles defense is actually trash and they would have beaten them by double digits. We had comments out of, I think, pretty much everybody. We had Debo making comments. We had George Kittle making comments, and all of them were getting lambasted on social media. Let's start with you, Kev. What do you think about these salty 49ers? Do you think they have a good argument, or do you think that they're just really salty?
What do you expect when they're in wine country? A lot of cheese, whining, because they're out there making wine. That's what do you expect from the 49ers? That's typical 49ers. That's simple. But no, all in all, I know how they feel because you get in that raw emotion, especially with social media, and you get that raw emotion comment right in your face there. But they got to do better. They're gonna get the slings and arrows, coming their way next season if they don't win. You did all this whining and you didn't back it up. So all of them is they're intensifying the expectations for the 49ers to win. They should just keep it quiet. You know what? Sometimes when you're quiet, you say more. Silence speaks louder volumes, and I think the 49ers should have just been silenced on that. And you know what? Use that as chipping for next season. Marinate over this off the off season, get better, and go out there and just take the season by storm. But now by them whining, you're putting up both sides, and a lot of teams are going to relish to beat them and really beat them bad.
Yeah, and I do think that the 49ers, no offense to our Bills fans here, are setting themselves up for a Bills season next year just because they've been
ouch.
Well, now we didn't talk trash. I will cut you off there. I got to cut you off, Connor. I'm sorry, but we are not that's wrong. Now, people picked us to win the Super Bowl. National media, sure, Bills Mafia was hyped up, but I don't recall any player from this team that talked trash before the season started, during the season, after the season. Like, if one thing I will say that you could say about my team is we're very humble and wins and losses. There's no excuse. We don't give excuses. Josh Allen doesn't get to the he's not a Zach Wilson. He doesn't put blame on people. He takes an L. He blames it. He puts it on himself. None of our team. I'm going to be honest. I'm just telling you guys. We were not that cocky team. We were one game at a time. It sucked that what happened, but we like that you would never hear from this team. We don't have players like that. I'm just going to throw that out there now.
Fans like that. So, we don't have players like
fans. That. Yeah, but I think the fans, that's across the league. But that's across the league. Jets were feeling themselves early on. Bills Mafia feeling themselves. The Giants fan. That one don't change. That circle, that's around the league. Fans are fans. But I'm talking about players themselves. Yes, we were predicted to win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl. Yes, Josh, but we were never out there saying we're that team, you know, we're going to win it all. You know what I mean? We weren't cocky. We just played to play, and it happens. It's the NFL, man.
Yeah.
That's fair.
To bring it back, Connor, it's not just the 49ers. Julian Love came out from the Giants after the game and said something about a free ride that Nick Sirianni's getting. I'm telling you, the Eagles take their persona from their head coach, who loves to live rent free in their opponent's head. It's a mind game that they play, and they're winning at it. And you know, you see the salty players come out and say something at the end because Sirianni tends to rile up at the end, and the camera always catches it. Like, Julian Love, one of the quietest dudes all year. You didn't hear nothing from him until after that game. You saw what he did in Indianapolis earlier in the year when he gave the Indianapolis fans the middle finger as they fired Frank Reich, his mentor. You know, it's one of those type. He is a smart head coach, and he plays mental games. The problem is he's going against one of the greatest coaches in the NFL history, in Andy Reid. He's not getting Andy Reid's head, so... Yeah, and I doubt Patrick Mahomes going to let them get in his head. So they can say what they want, they can act how they want. They're playing a veteran team,
right? Who doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah,
they just don't.
Yeah, that whole thing with Julian Love, that made absolutely no sense to me because I felt like the 49ers and the Giants were two different things. Like, the Giants got beat soundly, and this wasn't like, oh, we didn't show. Well, I will say no team is probably like 30-plus points better than another team. But you got beat like that twice by the same team. So why are you going on TV talking about, like, who cares what the coach is doing? Like, you got beat soundly in every aspect of the game. So I had no idea why Julian Love, and, like, as Mikey just said, this is literally the last person on the team you would expect to say something like that. Like, he conducts himself as like he's a franchise quarterback. So he just all of a sudden came out and said that. So that was strange to me. But as far as the 49ers, I don't think they should be complaining to the media about it. But I have seen kind of this narrative that, like, the Eagles have steamrolled everybody they've played against. Well, the Eagles are at least twice as good a team as the Giants are. The 49ers, I feel like everyone kind of felt like they got robbed in that NFC Championship game because we saw those teams as, like, the two powerhouse teams, especially in the NFC.
Yeah.
And the fact that not only their starting quarterback went out, who already was kind of like, he was Mr. Irrelevant.
He was the third string.
Yeah. But he was playing pretty well, and he goes out.
He was. I give him credit.
And then Josh Johnson, the former Giants backup quarterback, former Giants third string quarterback. I didn't even know he was on the 49ers.
The NFL All-Star, the USFL All-Star, the XFL All-Star.
Then Josh Johnson comes out there, and he looks bad, and then he starts to look kind of decent, and then he gets hurt. So can they really say, like, Julian Love, like, you got beat. There's no excuse. But the 49ers players probably feel like if we have Brock Purdy that whole game, if we have Jimmy Garoppolo, if we have a quarterback, even Josh Johnson, we're probably at least going to be in a very close game. And I'm sure it's annoying for them to look at the media and say, like, the Eagles have steamrolled everybody because they couldn't throw the ball. They literally could not throw the ball.
When Brock Purdy was in, they couldn't protect him. He got hit on 3 straight plays because that right tackle got beat by Reddick was eating their lunch. So what made him think he could have been any better with Purdy in there? That's the thing. When you look at it, yes, it was a long game. They could have made adjustments. Why are you blocking their best defensive pass rusher with your tight end? Not even your starting tight end, your backup tight end.
Exactly.
That's just that. No, bad
I think the Eagles would have won that game, but I do think it would have been closer. Yeah, but I think the Eagles. I think the Eagles' defense was too much versus that offensive line for San Francisco in that game. I think San Francisco. Listen, San Francisco is going to be a problem for teams moving forward if they could just figure out like who they're going to go. Is going to be their quarterback. But look, as you see, even if it's a third string in Purdy, they can get the job done with what they got, and I think they will be a problem moving forward. They got a hell of a defense. We all know that, and they got Debo Samuel. I mean, they got weapons across the board. McCaffrey, right? So you don't need, honestly, in that system and that team. I don't think they even need like a franchise, like it's awesome quarterback. You just need a game manager who's not going to make mistakes, and you are golden if you're San Francisco right now. I think that's one team where you can really say, we can have an average quarterback and win. That's very hard to say for around the league. You need a franchise quarterback, but that's maybe one team.
You need the average quarterback though to be able to make that big play.
You can.
They were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. And they had an average quarterback in Jimmy G, but he missed a wide open Emmanuel Sanders running free that would have won him the Super Bowl. Can't have that with your average quarterback.
But there's teams that have won with average quarterbacks or
Trent Dilfer,
the Ravens quarterback. I forget his
Flacco.
name. Flacco, the guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, did it. Was it Johnson? Brad Johnson, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, so I mean, it could happen, is what I'm saying. Their team is built that way. I think they could go far enough and possibly get to a Super Bowl with an average to good quarterback, and we'll see. Because Lance, I'm still saying he right now. Right. I don't know, But anyways, enough 49ers talk. Boo.
Well, just to wrap it up here, I think you've got Lance, you've got Purdy, right? They're in a really good position in terms of having these two quarterbacks on rookie contracts that they don't have to pay. They get to keep their entire team together here for another year. And going back to my Bills comparison, I agree with what you're saying about the players. The reason I was making the comparison is I feel like everybody thought they got robbed the way everyone felt that the Bills got robbed last year with the overtime rules and everything. There's so much expectation on them now for next year. But the unspoken part of all of this is they lost DeMeco Ryans and they're replacing him with Steve Wilkes. That number one overall defense, right? If holes start to show there, and it is aging a little bit, if even with guys like Hufanga that they're bringing in they found this amazing new talent in recent drafts. If that core starts to get a little bit older here, they don't have DeMeco Ryans anymore. The expectations are astronomical with a young QB. I just feel like they're setting themselves up for a disappointing.
They said the same thing when they lost Saleh, though.
What's up, Scott?
When Bob Saleh left, everyone said the same thing. Oh, they lost him, and now what are they going to do? And then you saw DeMeco Ryans step up, and he got it. Steve Wilkes made a very bad Panthers team look respectable. Yeah. That guy is a very smart defensive coordinator.
I think they couldn't have got anyone better.
Me neither. The only one I think that could have been better was their former defensive coordinator,
Fangio.
I think Fangio.
What a sellout! Fangio signed a 2-week contract with the Eagles just to like give them tips against the Chiefs. And if the Eagles win, a guy that was signed to their team for 2 weeks is going to get a ring.
That's smart. That's smart.
Like the easiest ring that you could.
You know who does that? That's a Bill Belichick move. Who will find someone like a backup guard to get information for the
he would do that week. No doubt.
That's a Belichick move right there.
Imagine getting a Super Bowl ring from 2 weeks of work.
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
I mean, he's had a great career. I think, he's been chasing that ring for a while now, so I wouldn't feel too bad. Out of all the guys in the league that, that get a cheap Super Bowl ring, I think Vic Fangio has done a lot of work to deserve it. That defense that he led with the last time the 49ers made it to the Super Bowl definitely did its part. I would say Garoppolo didn't, though, in that particular Super Bowl against the Chiefs. So anyway, bringing it back over to the game today, we got Chiefs, we got Eagles. Let's do a quick roundtable. I think everybody sort of already mentioned in some way or another who they got, but let's just go through one by one. Let's see who we got, and let's put a poll up on the screen and see what everybody got. Who is going to win the Super Bowl?
Man, Scott, you're really thinking Casey's going to get steamrolled.
Yeah,
huh?
He's hoping.
I think you're. I'm sorry, buddy. That's not. I don't think that's going to happen.
All right, let's see it here, guys. So let's start with you up in the corner there, Kev. Who you got, Eagles or Chiefs?
Well, personally, I think it's gonna. I hope it's Kansas City 30, Eagles 24. Not only that, I hit my Super Bowl squares and I make a little, scratch for the game. That's personal interest. But yeah, I think Kansas City wins it.
All right. Interesting.
All right, so I will say my heart says the Eagles, my brain says the Chiefs. I think it's going to be like 30-27 Chiefs. I can't see, I have a hard time thinking that with a healthy Chiefs team, Mahomes and Reed are just too good to bet against. Yeah. But my heart says go Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Diggy. No, all right. Go ahead, Diggy.
Oh, go ahead. Mine is opposite. Mine is the exact opposite. My heart is telling me the Chiefs. My brain is telling me the Eagles. I mean, like, I have not seen a team this stacked in a while, like from top to bottom, like between the Eagles and the 49ers this year is ridiculous. But the Eagles have a quarterback who's an MVP candidate. I'm just hoping that the Chiefs can get some pressure on them, because I would just hate for an Eagles quarterback to win a Super Bowl, like with no pressure on them at all. Like physically no pressure on them the entire playoffs. That would stink. But I'm going to go Chiefs 35, Eagles 30.
All right, we got a lot of high scoring predictions here. People really think they're going to be, both teams are going to be firing on all cylinders here, huh?
So I'm rooting for the Eagles. I don't want the Chiefs to win. However, I think the Chiefs, to what I said when we started the podcast, I think because of the coaching, I think Andy Reid's been there, done that. The veteran and him and the creativity, even with his OC, Mahomes been there, done that. Travis Kelce. I mean, they have a lot of guys, veteran guys on that Chiefs team that are really, really good. And these are both evenly matched teams as well. It's not like the Eagles were just, the Chiefs just barely got there, or they're like, top, they're a 20th ranked defense.
They went through a gauntlet.
Yeah, they're a top. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they've been good all season. They're top 10 offense, top 10 defense. As a matter of fact, they're number 1 in offense, top 10 on defense. So this is a very evenly matched game. But like I said, you have to give the Chiefs a little bit of an advantage because of the coaching, because of the quarterback. So I'm going to go 38-35, somewhere around there, 37-34. I think it's going to come down to probably a last possession. And I'm gonna go Chiefs probably with the last possession, drive down, kick a field goal, or get a touchdown, game over. I think it's gonna be a really good Super Bowl, though.
I really hope this is a great game.
Sure. Me too.
Yeah, I think it's definitely gonna be a good game.
I don't want the Chiefs to win because I don't want to listen to Nick Wright. I'll be perfectly honest. He makes me hate the Chiefs. He makes me hate the Chiefs. Like, I love Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes is so exciting to watch. But Nick Wright is so smug, he makes me hate them.
I'm convinced Nick Wright isn't a real person. I just can't believe that he believes anything that he says.
No, he's the biggest clown on. There's a lot of them, by the way. National media, there's a ton. Yeah. There's some that I respect, and I'm like, like Colin Cowherd, I'm cool with. I think Colin kind of. I mean, even he sometimes gets a little. A little crazy on his comments, but
he rides the fence. He rides the high and lows.
But I think he's the most, him, and there's a few other, Rich Eisen, but those clowns like Stephen A. and Nick Wright, like, they're just in it for just the clickbait in a way. Like, Skip Bayless, it's all. I don't listen to any of those guys, man.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, for me personally, just to round it out here, I do think that the Eagles are going to be able to pull this out. I think it's going to be actually lower scoring than you guys think, because I think both these quarterbacks are going to be under attack. I think it's going to be 24-20 Eagles. And the big difference maker in this game, I think, is going to be turnovers. Mahomes throws the heck out of the ball, but he did have 12 interceptions this season. He is the guy that's going to make try to make throws into tight windows. He's going to try to put the game on his back. And as you saw, against the Bengals last year, that ended up coming back to bite him. And I just think that the Eagles' depth, again, that depth in the trenches is going to be too much, where they're still, even if the game goes to overtime, those Eagles are still going to be able to get after Mahomes the entire game. Hurts, on the other hand, he does play it more conservatively. He doesn't mind letting a drive die, if it means making a risky throw. He's only had 6 interceptions on the season, and I think that's going to be the big difference maker for me personally. So I think it's going to be lower scoring than people expect, and I got 24-20 Eagles over Chiefs.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Didn't Mahomes pull Jameis Winston last week?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I don't know if it'll be that bad, but I think Mahomes is going to be under attack. I think both these defensive lines are going to come out flying in Arizona, and I can't wait to watch. I mean, me being a Bears fan, I always want to see defense play well. Personally, I think it makes for a better game. Although that infamous 13-3 Super Bowl was not the most fun to watch. I'll give you guys that. All right. Thank
Bears.
you everybody for your responses.
Bears.
Or Bears. So unfortunately, guys, the last thing I want to talk about with you guys today is tragically, we've got, it is the end. Oops, what just happened?
We are all over the screen. There we go.
Yeah, let's get us all up on the screen here.
Hey.
Unfortunately, the one sad part of the Super Bowl every year, from my perspective at least, is that it is the last NFL game of the season. None of our teams made it to the final game this year, and none of our teams have made it for a while, if we're being honest, as good as the Bills especially have been in recent years. So what is it going to take, guys? Let's have this final discussion to wrap it up. For your favorite team, what is it going to take to see your team get into the Super Bowl next year? Let's start with the Bills because they had the best overall record of our teams last year. Tommy, Mikey, let's hear it. What do you guys think?
I'll start, Tommy.
Yeah. Yep.
It's going to take us fixing our offensive line. If we can't give somebody $250 million and then not protect them. Listen, go back and look at what the Dolphins did, and really, you go back to look at that first Jets loss. The Jets set the blueprint for how to beat the Bills. Rush, but play rush contain and pressure up the middle. And if you have a defensive line that can do that, you were able to get to Josh Allen. If you can get to him and hit him a bunch, he tends to stop, believing in his guys and tries to play a one-man show and do it himself. At the end of the day, listen, that Jets defense is freaking disgustingly good, and I hate to say it because I don't like the Jets, and I hope they stay. I hope they suck. I hope they keep their quarterback, and he shows how bad he is. But however, getting back to the Bills, it's fixing that offensive line. You fix that offensive line, and you get someone other than Von Miller to put some pressure. And this goes back to why we, like Tommy and I were talking about our defensive coordinator. The Bills play a soft zone defense all the time. If you go back and you look to see what's happening with the two teams that are in the Super Bowl now, they play an aggressive style defense. And until the Bills truly change, they're not going to make the Super Bowl because you can play that soft zone in the regular season, but when you get those best offenses that come in, the Kansas Cities, the Cincinnatis, you need to be able to put pressure on their quarterbacks or they're going to eat you alive. And playing that soft zone ain't gonna work. So. Tommy, I'll turn it over to you. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. So, just to ride off that, exactly. Offensive line, one, is the most important thing for sure. Needs to be addressed. It's something that I've been screaming for the past, 3-4 seasons. We keep putting Band-Aids on a wound that is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now the blood is just gushing everywhere. And it showed this season. It showed why Josh Allen threw a ton of interceptions. Because he was under pressure, because he was trying to make something out of nothing. It shows why he was sacked so many times. It showed why he led the league.
He got hurt.
It showed the league why he had led the league in batted footballs. A 6'5" quarterback shouldn't be leading the league and getting his passes batted down. That's because the offensive line is getting pushed back. That's not good. Our run, everyone's screaming about our running attack. Well, our running attack can't be good with a terrible offensive line who can't run block. So there's a lot to do with the offensive line. It cannot be, it cannot keep continuing getting 1-year deals on aging veterans to try to fill, a spot that's much needed that should go through the draft. And we have yet to address that. And I'm hoping that this draft, we address our offensive line. Also, speaking of the draft, it's been all defense except for the first season under Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane. It's time to get back on the offensive side of things. Get your offensive line, get another weapon for Josh Allen as far as receivers. We're also very limited with speed as far as, you can look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs have like multiple receivers that have killer elite speed.
Look at the Eagles too.
Right, Eagles as well. So there's a lot there that needs to be fixed. The defense, I'll be honest with you, yeah, we do need a little work on that, but I am mostly concerned about right now is our offensive line and our offensive line and getting a little bit more weapons there for Josh. But speaking of real quick, and I'll turn it to you guys next, but Leslie Frazier, I am disappointed. I love Leslie Frazier, but he's been here since 2017. I feel like his time is up. I think it's time to move on, and they're not. And that could be something that could get Sean McDermott fired after next season if we don't make the Super Bowl, in my opinion. That's just a bad mistake. I think it's time to move on. You got to get a change of, a different philosophy. We run that same zone. Different voice, different philosophy. We run a zone defense, nickel defense. And like Mikey said, when you get to the playoffs, that's where you start to go against top tier offenses that go, okay, we've seen what they can do in the regular season. Now we're gonna adjust and let's see what they do. No, we don't adjust. We stay with the same tired ass zone, soft zone defense. And you see Cincinnati, they just picked us apart. Boom, 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 boom. Went down the field, scored touchdowns. We had no answer. So there is some things that need to be answered. I don't think it's a whole bunch, but the offensive line is number one in my opinion. Mm-hmm. All right, that's it. I'm done.
For sure. I do think the one the flawed part of the philosophy that I think we saw got exposed here with the soft zone D is it's definitely a cold weather style of play where you say, all right, let's just put ourselves in our best coverage on almost every play and just let the offense beat themselves in the cold up in Buffalo. We've got home field advantage. And the Chiefs and the Bengals just came in and said, nope, forget the cold. We don't care. It's snowing. We're going to throw the ball. We're going to run it down your throats. We're going to do everything that we normally do. Our entire offensive playbook is open and we're just going to power through it because it's the playoffs and that's what we got to get done.
So here's the problem, Connor, though. Buffalo isn't built. Our team isn't built to play at home. And that's a crappy thing to say. And it's for as much as we want home field advantage because the snow and the wind, we're not built that way. Right. We don't have this overpowering offensive line that can run the ball in the snow or even defensive line. So I get it. And if we had that, oh man, playing in Buffalo, I feel bad for every team coming to us in January. But if we're not built to play at home, then I'd rather be on the road. I'd rather not have home field advantage. Maybe that's a disadvantage.
Imagine if the Niners were in Buffalo.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Or the Eagles or whatever. Any team with an offensive line that can, win in the trenches.
That can run the ball. I mean, look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati ran it down the Bills' throat because they
weren't even running good all year, right? They barely ran the ball all year.
Undersized defensive tackles because they want speed. That's not built for Buffalo weather.
Yep. So until that's addressed, guys, it's going to be a problem.
And that comes back to the O-line and to the run game as well, right? The in-season trade for Hines was probably one of the most baffling things that we saw going into the postseason here, or now that we've
the in-season trade was great, but we didn't use him. There was they didn't execute any plan, and that made zero sense to me.
Yeah,
that's coaching, guys. Though that's coaching, and I continue to say this will be Sean McDermott's last season, in my opinion, if he doesn't get us to the promised land. And if they don't, then it's just we're doing a whole Cincinnati Bengals with their old coach Marvin Lewis or whatever, just letting it ride out until he's ready to go, or fans are basically, not going to the games. Is where the ownership will go. Man, we got to change, because it seems like right now, it's like I think they're so happy with McDermott and being what they've done, the turnaround, because we were terrible for so long, but they're not willing to separate from McDermott and the coaching staff, because they're like, oh man, but look, we've won the East, AFC East twice in a row. We've gone to the playoffs 5 out of 6. But it's like, okay, but we're cool now. We know you can get there, but we need to get further. And if they can't get there, then it's time to move on and say, hey, we appreciate what you did, but now it's time to move on. So That's where I'm at as a Bills fan. I just don't know if that's where the ownership is at, and that's what's scary.
And I think the other scary element of it is, Bills are 21 million over the cap, right? They can kick the can down the road this year and even pick up a couple of pieces to try to help them rearm here for a reload. But if McDermott, gives you guys similar results on this reload, then you guys could be in a pretty tough position come 2024. So I know what you mean. I think it's scary to make the plunge and fire your coach and bring in a new coach when he's had so much success with the team overall. Right. But when you're in the middle of this reload right now, the window does have a time limit. So
but it really a hard place. Much like Joe Burrow says, as long as we have Josh Allen in town, the window doesn't close. The thing about Brandon Beane, the way he's built it, is we're 2 years out. So even if we're 21 million over the cap right now, Josh Allen has a $27 million base salary. They restructure that. We're now 4 million over. We're 4 million under the cap, and they have other ones that they can do. Josh Allen isn't going anywhere, so kicking his money down the road is fine because we have more money coming in. Because the league hasn't really even started putting in. They got the new money deals from the TV, but they haven't incorporated the gambling money yet. That's coming in the next couple of years. So you're going to see these caps explode. So if you have the owner who's willing to cut the checks and pay the cash versus cap, you're fine. And the Pagulas have done that to this point. So as long as they're willing to continue to do that, the caps can be played with. You saw that in New Orleans. It can be done. But really, the way Brandon Beane does it, it's a 2-year thing. So even if we were bad, we only be bad for 1 year as he clears the cap like he did in 2018 when we were really horrible. Ended up getting, the Ed Oliver pick. I think it was number 9. And then we back to be able to re-put money back into the team again.
Listen, if you built the team right, like Mikey's saying, you can just like the Patriots did for many, many seasons, where they always, and Tom Brady always worked out his contract so they can sign players. It's all about just building the team right for the long run. And I think that's what Brandon Beane's doing. But he does need to work the draft a little better. I got to admit that, because you cannot keep losing in drafts. Drafts are so important because you can't. Eventually, you will catch up to the salary cap. And now, look, that's where we're at now. We can't sign players, at least key players, this season, at least this season. So you got to really work the draft, and that's something that Brandon Beane's kind of. It's been a little rough ride, and I don't think it's been terrible. I just think he's missed out on some key players when they were there, and he was grabbing things that really didn't need to be taken. So it's a little mind-boggling, some of the draft picks, but I think, listen, like I said before, though, it's all about the coaching. I think and I said it before, it starts from the ownership down to the GM, down to the coach. They all got to link together like a chain, right? And I think that's why I'm a little nervous if they do let go of McDermott, because you got to find a coach that links in with that has the same mindset as Brandon Beane. But there has to come a time eventually where any team, has to decide when you got to let that guy go, because he's just not getting you over that next hurdle. And I fear that's what's going on with Sean McDermott. I really do. He's a defensive coordinator as well, too.
I liken it to the Warriors when they had Jackson when Steph was young, and they realized they were at their limit, and then they brought in Steve Kerr and it took them over the top.
Right.
That's the point. You got to cut your losses.
Yeah.
But anyways,
the Pistons did that.
There's other
by the
teams
way. Yeah, the Pistons did that real quick with Larry Brown. By the way, they hired Larry Brown. First season, they won a championship out of Rick Carlisle.
And from the new ownership group's perspective, I do give the Bills a lot of credit for becoming a much more national team. People really like the Bills; they tune in for the Bills, and that's going to help the ownership group a lot here as they're building a new stadium, as they're investing a lot of money here into this team. But let's switch it over here to the other big market teams we've got here. We've got Giants, we've got Jets, we got Bears to talk
about.
Our
New Jersey teams.
Yeah, exactly. Our New Jersey teams first. Let's start with Giants with Diggy. Diggy, what? Oh, I don't know why it's not switching. Diggy, what do you think is going to take for the Giants to make that plunge into the Super Bowl next year under second-year coach Brian Daboll?
Yeah, I kind of look at the Giants as like not to say that we'll be anywhere near this team-wise, but I kind of look at them. It looks like we lost Connor.
We did lose Connor.
Anyway,
That's okay. Go ahead, Dick.
He's coming back.
We got this. There he is.
But pretty much what I was saying is the Giants should be looking at what the Eagles did in their second year, because people didn't expect the Eagles to win and go to the playoffs last year. And then this year they kind of sold out. The thing is, we don't have a bunch of first-round picks, so we can't expect that to happen. But what would have to happen for the Giants to make the Super Bowl is, first off, we would have to get multiple linebackers. We have the worst linebacking core in the league by far. It's not close. We had Jalen Smith, who he's been done for about 4 years. He's not the same player. And then we had Mr. Irrelevant there, Tay Crowder, who's on the Steelers practice squad now. Just a bunch of guys who should not be playing football in the NFL. They shouldn't be playing. So we've got to get at least 2 linebackers in here. We've got to get at least 1 interior offensive lineman, preferably a center, to just kind of stabilize that whole thing. We had a guy, Nick Gates, who almost lost his leg last year in a game against the Commanders, or I guess back then they were the football team, but almost lost his leg last year, fought all the way back and became basically a starting left guard for us this year. And I was just surprised how, like, this is a tangent. I was surprised how he got, I think, like 2 votes for comeback player of the year, but I feel like a player that loses his leg, they almost lost his leg and plays football, like, we didn't know if he would ever play again. I feel like he should have won comeback player of the year. And by the way, I also think DeMar Hamlin should win comeback player of the year if he's able to get on the field next year. That just makes sense to me. But that's a whole different debate. Geno Smith came back from the bench. But pretty much the Giants have got to get some linebacker help. They've got to get interior offensive lineman help.
Edmonds,
and we have
by
a
the
bunch
way,
of
Diggy. Yeah. That's a good comment by Scott. Edmonds, I don't know if we're going to be able to afford him or bring him back. I'm telling you, he's an excellent linebacker.
And that is who the Giants are going after. Like, the Giants fans are going after him because he just we have that connection. Well. And he's a guy that can pretty much do it all. And in Wink Martindale's scheme, we may not want to be investing money in multiple linebackers because usually only one guy is on the field, and he's got to be able to cover. He's got to be able to blitz. He's got to be able to do everything. And from what I've seen, Edmonds can do all of that. On top of that, once we get that linebacker spot figured out, we need a reliable cornerback too. We've had solid cornerback twos, but not a reliable guy. And even over that, Darnay Holmes is an albatross in the slot. He's just horrible. The undrafted rookies that we've had playing outside have been a lot more reliable than our slot. But you never are going to have the perfect team. So I think the number one thing is linebacker, offensive line, and getting a dominant wide receiver. And that's the most difficult part about this, because the easiest path to getting a wide receiver that's dominant to me is trading for Brandon Ayuk, who I'm not even sure if the 49ers want to move off of, because he's got his 5th-year option coming up, and they probably want to trade him next offseason because you get him 1 year on the cheap, and then you can trade him before that 5th-year option kicks in. But if we're not able to get him, you're looking at this draft, and I think the guy that fits our scheme the best is Jordan Addison or Jackson Smith and Jigba, and they could possibly both be gone. So what we probably would end up drafting is a guy who was a wide receiver too, which would be really great. But we have wide receiver twos. That's all we have is wide receiver 2s and 3s and 4s. And if we're not able to get that, I just can't see a team that doesn't have a guy that puts fear in the defense's heart at the wide receiver or tight end position. I just can't see us going to the Super Bowl without addressing that. So 3 big spots. I'll say 4 big spots. I would say linebacker is the first need, wide receiver is the second need, interior offensive lineman is the third need, and backup defensive lineman is the 4th need. Because our defensive line, you look at our D-line, we got Dexter Lawrence, who's an all-pro, Leonard Williams, who's a Pro Bowler, bless you. We got Azeez Ojulari, who's looked really great, but hasn't been able to stay healthy this year after he put on about 15 pounds of muscle. Looked like a Pro Bowler, but he just can't stay healthy. And then number 4 is Kayvon Thibodeau, who people think he'll be a really good player. So that defensive line, you would think, like, why are teams running all over him? Because the second one of our defensive linemen come out, opponents just run directly at that defensive lineman. And it's just easy yards. So we've got to fix that. And I think that's like a pretty easy fix. We got a guy we drafted last year DJ Davidson, another guy, Nick Williams, 2 defensive tackles that were solid, but both of them were out for the season. So we just got a lot of things that we need to fix that are mostly depth issues. And we just need that one superstar on offense to take the pressure off of Saquon Barkley. And of course, the elephant in the room. Of course, Daniel Jones has to step up in year 2 of the offense. If he doesn't do that, this is all a moot point. Even if we upgrade everything else, we can make it back to where we made it this year, the divisional round. But I just can't see us going much further than that without like superstar kind of plays in the passing game. We just need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I guess Jamar Chase will be available for Cincinnati. They won't be able to bring him, and the Giants are number 1 favorite. Jamar Chase.
You mean
they're going to break the bank for Chase?
Oh, you mean T. Higgins? You mean T. Higgins?
T. Higgins?
No, Higgins. I mean Higgins. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Higgins.
Yeah, I don't think Higgins is a fit for the Giants for the scheme that we run, and I don't think he's a fit for Daniel Jones. I mean, we tried it with Golladay, who has been a disappointment. Like, he has been a disappointment. He hasn't played well. He's been injured. But Daniel Jones sees Golladay when he first – because there's one thing, like, we're 2 years in. But when Golladay first got here, you see that guy one-on-one downfield, and he's a contested catch monster. Why don't you throw him the ball? Daniel Jones does not throw contested catch. He just doesn't throw those contested catches down the sideline. And T. Higgins may be able to come here and, break 1,000 yards, but – there's going to be a lot of meat left on the bone if we're not going to throw him jump balls. It's really taken away a really big part of his game.
But that's one of Daboll's keys. He likes receivers like T. Higgins.
Well, if
it might be a quarterback thing. It might be.
I was going to say,
where he's going to have to
look for a new one. Then we're going to see Daboll go out and get another quarterback this offseason, because if that's something that he really wants to do, either Daniel Jones was instructed, don't even throw contested catches because our receivers aren't that good, and all of a sudden we'll see Daniel Jones throw it next year, or they have to go and get somebody new if that's a big thing that they want to do.
Yeah.
So
and I think
quick, I want to tell this. Scott Blakely, one of our awesome people in our chat, you are absolutely out of your mind. No offense to my buddy up here, the Jets fan up here, the Jets guy, but until the Jets fix their quarterback problem, and the Jets are not winning the AFC East, and
leave some meat on the bone, buddy. I haven't talked yet.
Just like the Patriots, I'm just saying, just like the Patriots, until you knock them down, the Bills right now are the kings of the AFC East. That's just the way it works. We won 2 years in a row, so it's not as easy as just because we won a bad playoff game. Now all of a sudden we're just going to stink. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying the Jets are bad, and I'm not. Don't. So go ahead. I'm just throwing that out there.
We'll get to the Jets in 1 second here. I think this is going to be a pretty spicy debate. But just to wrap up the Giants really quick, and especially the wide receiver situation, I think the one thing that we're not talking about that's changed things the most is how the AJ Brown trade turned out last year and how that ended up getting the Titans GM fired. Right? If you're a GM right now with a Brandon Ayuk or a Jerry Jeudy or a T. Higgins that's in a similar situation here, and there's teams around the league that would potentially be willing to give up a first for him, you can't make that trade now after what happened with AJ Brown last year. So I think, all of these guys would be lovely to have. I'd love to have them on the Bears. I don't see any of them moving them, especially because all three of these guys are on teams that, I know the Broncos suck, that are supposed to be in position to contend here and have gone all in toward contending. For them, it makes way more sense to just keep them for their final year of their contract, hope they can do a drag and trade or something like that, or if they have to let them walk and get a comp pick, they do that. But it doesn't make sense if you're the 49ers to move on from Ayuk right now, or if you're the Bills or Bengals to move on from a Higgins right now. I think that's just the reality.
With Ayuk, it's a year too early. Like I said, I think you at least have to pick up his 5th-year option and let him play out his 4-year deal before you trade him. But I think Tennessee, the guy lost his job because you traded away A.J. Brown and you said, oh, no, we just took another A.J. Brown in the draft. Like, that's not A.J. Brown. Like,
no, exactly.
It seemed like he was trading away A.J. Brown and there'd be no drop-off because you took a rookie with a similar skill set. I think that's why he got fired, because he didn't have –
the knockoff A.J. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you cannot be scared either. They moved – Tyreek Hill moved from the Chiefs. And look where they're at. They're in the Super Bowl. So I kind of disagree with the guys trading the wide receivers. the Chiefs did it with Tyreek Hill. I could see 49ers moving away from Ayuk. I could see Chase. I mean, not Chase. Higgins. Even Judy was traded. Was talk about rumored to the Giants. So could they explore it? Absolutely. I won't rule it out.
Yeah, but the Chiefs also have Patrick Mahomes.
And they had,
the Giants have Daniel Jones. Yeah. And the 49ers have.
And they had Kelsey. They had Kelsey too, who was basically
Lance and Purdy. So, it worked moving Tyreek Hill because of who their quarterback was, and they still had Travis Kelce as their number one. Travis Kelce was their number one when Tyreek was there. Yeah.
But I'll combat this. Deebo Samuels almost became a Jet. They were moving Deebo Samuels as well. Remember that. If these teams were moved, these wide receivers were being shot. We cannot turn a blind eye just because they didn't move. It can happen again. That's my point.
I agree. I agree. You know what? I agree with you. For sure. There is guys that are like, especially this past offseason that were traded. We're like, damn, right? Like I'm hearing Lamar Jackson could get traded.
Devontae Smith, I forgot about that.
Right. So yes, I agree with you on that, but I think your GM, if you're going to trade a big time player like that, you better know that you can replace him, or that you have a team that can move on without him. Right.
Otherwise, you're losing your job. Look in Tennessee.
Exactly. That was a terrible. I mean, right now it was awful trade. So I'm just saying there could be good ones that work out, like the Tyreek Hill worked out for both teams. Really, if you think about it, it's not like the Dolphins were like he went there and was a terrible. Like he had a really good season, so it worked out for both teams in a way, right? The Chiefs got all those draft picks, right? So trades like that can work out for both teams too. So. But I agree with you. Never say never, especially when it comes down to money too. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Sometimes you got to move on. So I understand that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's get to Jets here. Let's talk about these Jets. According to our Bills fans here, they are still the reigning champions, and that is true for this very moment. But Jets fans have a lot to be excited about here. What is it going to take for the Jets to take over the division, take over the conference, and get to the Super Bowl?
They got Zach Wilson there, but he ain't no Aaron Rodgers. And that's all I got to say. Jets get Aaron Rodgers in here. The cap goes up $20 more million. It's $228 million for the cap. It's right now $204. If I'm not mistaken, they could bring in Aaron Rodgers. You've got your quarterback. You've got the defense. One thing that does concern me is they're going to lose a lot of defensive linemen, like Curry and others on that line. Can they sign there? Do they restructure C.J. Mosley's contract to fit Lamar Jordan if he's going to come back on this team? He's also attending free agent. They got to take care of their own. But boy, a quarterback like a bad man like Aaron Rodgers on that team is going to have the dome team Buffalo Bills shaking in their boots, who want to fire their head coach, and they're panicking already, and they're a little nervous because they hear the footsteps of the Jets, the engine revving. They say they're in New Jersey, but man, they're nervous. Look at them. They're sweating. Look at them.
I would be more scared of you guys getting Derek Carr than Aaron Rodgers.
Wow.
Aaron Rodgers don't like young receivers.
That's true. He is a great player.
He does
not. He prefers veteran type receivers.
We got Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson, I'll give you, is legit.
Yeah, he's good.
Corey Davis,
good.
That's what I was going to say.
Elijah Moore. CJ Arlamy. Oh, my.
Elijah Moore, the one who was asking out of town?
I think, listen, man. I think you should be more proud. Your defense is what is legit. I'll be honest with you. As an outside, as a Buffalo Bills fan, I can say your defense with your coach, who's a defensive coordinator, he has that thing humming. And not only that, these are all young guys. They're only going to get better. So that's a awesome thing. But like you said, if you bring in Aaron Rodgers or another quarterback, but you got to do it first. And then not only that, they have to gel, right? So just because you bring in a veteran, look at Denver, right? They brought in Russell Wilson. Didn't really work out this first season. So it doesn't mean necessarily when you bring in a quarterback that it's going to fit in the system, that he's going to fit with the coordinator. I'm just throwing that out there. You never know. So I wouldn't automatically jump and say, you guys, just because you get a quarterback, that it's sky's the limit now. You know what I mean? You don't know how it's going to go.
You just mentioned the coordinator. We got Nathaniel Hackett, who flourished. Of course, anyone could run these superstar quarterbacks flourish, but Nathaniel Hackett knows the system, knows what to put at least the other route runners and the other blocking scheme for the quarterback as an Aaron Rodgers. If you bring him in here, I like it because not only that, Nathaniel Hackett, let's face it, he failed as a head coach with Denver, but he sees the aspect now as an offense coordinator, has to see how to run, clock management, all the aspect of being a head coach. Now he's back at the offensive coordinator with a little more seasoning. I think is going to help a Rob Saleh, who didn't manage the clock well for the New York Jets. And now with him now being offense coordinator, what plays to call audible with a quarterback that who knows the system would only benefit the New York Jets. The only thing that worries me, what do they do with Zach Wilson? Do they move him? Do they become the understudy under Rodgers? That's an interesting aspect there. Personally, I wouldn't mind Zach Wilson to be the understudy for Rodgers, because I think with the Jets' disservices, when they bought Zach Wilson, they never bought a backup quarterback to fit his style of play. Let's face it, Fluco, which I call him Fluco. I know it's Joe Flacco, but I call him Fluco. He's a stiff. He was a stiff. They should have brought in Gardner Minshew, who moves, who is agile. Let him go, or Tyron Taylor, who's mobile. Similar fit to Wilson. I think the Jets made a disservice there when they were in their quarterback, and they paid a price with Zach Wilson's regression. Also, remember, Elijah Vera Tucker will return. Mekhi Becton will return on the offensive line. Of course, we need to hire that for him. As who wouldn't like a MILF? Of course not. So Wilson, it does a body good.
Listen, I love Elijah Vera Tucker. He's one of the best interior guards in football. Mekhi Becton scares me a little bit because of his size. He has the talent, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. If they can find a way to get him healthy, I think the Jets will have a very good offensive line. But really, I think it really lies at the two tackle positions that needs to be worked on this offseason. If the Jets can shore up that offensive line, because Breece Hall is coming back. And he's a beast.
He was good. Yeah,
he's a beast. And then you guys have Michael Carter as the change of pace back.
Yeah, and he's good too. Yeah,
James Robinson
even
too.
Zacharias Knight was good in limited play. I mean, we've got a deep backfield.
Yeah,
no, they do. Yeah, I give them that.
So the Jets are putting the pieces together. As a Bills fan, from what I can see on the outside, the concern really lies within the coaching staff and the quarterback. From what I can see on the outside, Corey Davis is a legit 2 or 3, depending on what you think of him, and everybody has a different thoughts. Garrett Wilson's a bona fide star. Yeah. He is. He would start on anybody's team in the NFL. The dude's a stud. Breece Hall's a stud. Elijah Vera Tucker's stud. So you have those building blocks in place. So it'll be interesting to see if Joe Douglas puts another great offseason together like he did last year. If he does, I don't know if you guys will do it next year, but you guys are working your way towards it. My concern, and this goes with the Jets franchise in general, is you'll start putting these things in place. If it doesn't hit next year, you guys fire Saleh and team and you start over and you scrap it. The Bills did that for 17 years in a row until they finally gave somebody a shot. Because I'll tell you, they do have the building blocks to be a good team if they are patient.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with you, especially in the corners. You got Reed, and you have Sauce Gardner. Really, could lock that down. Of course, like I mentioned, Joyner in the safety. I think they might draft the safety coming up. One of the guards out there from Georgia or center, because I know Cover McGovern we're going to release them, so they look like they might get a center or interior guard for the Jets. So it's interesting there with the Jets. They're going to have a few. I don't think they'll go crazy spending in free agency. I hope they just signed some of their own in the defensive line. I love that they kept going after the quarterback. They were putting pressure. One thing I do want to criticize my Jets, they didn't get the turnovers. This is a team that frustrated me. They couldn't get the turnovers, get off the field. They need to do better on that. But all in all, I hope they find themselves the right quarterback. I don't know if Mike White returns, to be honest with you. I don't want Jimmy G. I don't want Jimmy Garoppolo. I know he wins everywhere, but he's like paper mache. The guy wipe his butt and he injures himself. And I can't have that on my team. We need someone's availability on the court. I can't have it.
Yep.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm with you there.
For sure. Well, I want to get just some yeses or nos here. Assuming that the Jets manage to keep their core together here, I know, you maybe managed to restructure, get a little bit friendlier deal for CJ Mosley, move some money around, and bring in Aaron Rodgers here. Yes or no? Do you guys think that the Jets have a legitimate shot of being a Super Bowl team next year with Aaron Rodgers? Yes or no? Kev, that's a definite yes. Diggy, what do you think?
I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan. I just think he's just so much. I think he just undoes all of the good that he brings to a team with everything else that he does. Like, he's going to go into a dark room right now and take 4 days to ponder, do I want $50 million this year or not? And he's going to come out and say, I just had so much just thought into it, and now I'll accept my $50 million. Like, come on, man. Like, we know he's coming back.
Yeah, that's fair.
He gets away with a lot of crap in Green Bay that the New York media would eat him up. I don't think he would want. I don't think he would want that attention. Because the New York media is brutal,
and he hates it.
It's a brutal area, man.
It is, and he hates it. One thing, you know what? I agree with you, Diggy. I would not want Aaron Rodgers. Listen, I'm not knocking his ability. He won a Super Bowl. He's a solid quarterback, but I just don't know. I don't like him as a team guy, man. He rolls his eyes a lot. He's Mr. Negative. He doesn't take it like it's everyone else's fault. He kind of reminds me of a little bit like Dan Marino. Dan Marino was exactly that guy. It's never his fault, never his mistakes. It was the receiver's fault, it was the offensive line fault. He was just kind of brings the team down, guys around you, right? And I don't like that. Like, and I'm not saying you want to go there and do good, but when things go bad, oh man, right? Like rolling his eyes, right? Like just
throwing his receivers under the bus,
temper tantrum. Yeah, the coach, who knows? Remember, the coach is a young coach, right? Let's say they don't get along, right? Because you saw what happened when the coach went to Green Bay. I forget his name, and they had the riff. Right away. Remember? And Aaron Rodgers wanted him out.
LaFleur.
Boom. He was I forget his name. Mike, whatever his name was.
Matt
out
LaFleur.
of there. Boom.
Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
Peter's brother.
Okay, so no, well, that's the coach now. It was the other coach before. I forget his name. I think he won a Super Bowl there.
Oh, Holdren? Mike Holdren? No, not the other one.
No,
McCarthy.
the other one.
McCarthy.
Yeah. And he booted him out of Green Bay. That was Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yeah, he was like throwing games. He was purposely losing.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, I don't know. I'm just saying that's what I say. So I don't know. Even if Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets, everything has to connect. Just like I said before with ownership, GM, coach. You don't know until you guys play the season how that connection is, because it could go good or it could go south real quick. And also, too, I want to mention, too, there's another team in the AFC East. It's Miami Dolphins. I hate the Dolphins. I do. It's my most hated team. But they're a good team. They are a good team. And that's another team that should be talked about as well going into next season. The AFC East is a tough division. So that's a tough division. But right now, though, the Bills to this day are the kings of the AFC East until somebody knocks us off that hill. So that's why I still think we
let me rebuttal that there. Okay. That Reverend Rodgers, all those qualities you mentioned, you could say is selfish, right, guys? All those qualities is selfish. Well, what more plays a narcissistic, selfish person? This team hasn't won since 1969. 50-plus years fan base. Do you have the cojones, the balls, the nuts, the testosterone to come into New York and win for this darn gone putrid franchise of the Jets? And you come in here and you play that to that ego, and he comes and he wins? Boy, his ego, his testicles are going to be this big. It won't even fit on Opus. Put it that way. So just
sure, he could do a Namath and wear white socks. Yeah, no doubt. But you got to do it. It has to fit.
I say that with the basketball team, with the Knicks. Who has the nuts to come here and win for this franchise? Rodgers is there. The ball. Kevin Durant didn't do it. I know I don't want to get away from the football, but my point is, these athletes are a little bit egocentric. You play to a fan base that wants them here. I think it's going to work, guys, for the Jets. I know people are going to say no, but they have to take the swing because it's 54-plus years. There's people that are going to pass away that haven't seen them win a Super Bowl, or even played in it. So they gotta try to swing for the fences at least once, in my opinion. And I think that's why it almost did. And if he would have kept his pecker out of the selfies, he would have probably been still here in New York. But it is what it is.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I think the Jets have a shot. I mean, as a Bears fan who's had to face Rodgers twice per year, underestimate the guy at your own peril. He definitely has a little bit of that Cutler don't care attitude to him for sure. I agree with you guys there, but never discount Aaron Rodgers when a big game is on the line, because as a Bears fan, he is going to humiliate you pretty much every time. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it for today. We can talk.
We want to find out about your Bears.
All right, fine.
We need love for your
Bears, give us some
Bears
talk.
Come on.
Come on, sausages over your dick guy. The Bears.
The Bears. Well, as you guys might know, the Bears are sitting on the number 1 overall pick. And I don't know if we actually deserve the number 1 pick. Lovie Smith is a wonderful human being, and I love him so much. But the Bears were, statistically the worst team in the year this past year, and they have holes at pretty much every position. That being said, they actually were a much better team than you'd expect the worst team in the league to be this last year. And that's the one thing we've got going for us. So if we want to have a Bengals miracle run here and get into the Super Bowl in a single season, do I think it's realistic or that we have an actual shot at it? Probably not in a single year. But I would say here's our biggest chance, right? If we get the Texans and the Colts bidding against each other in dramatic fashion here for this first overall pick, and we get a legendary haul. I mean, if I'm talking about realistic over the next couple of years, it would be amazing if we got a haul with multiple firsts, multiple seconds, blah, blah, blah. But if I'm just trying to make it to the Super Bowl this next year, I think we get the Texans and the Colts into an insane bidding war here, and the Texans end up giving us number 2, number 12, and number 33 just to move up one spot. If that can happen, then I think we have a chance. We can pick up 3 incredible players here at the very top of the draft to fill some of those holes on the offensive, defensive trenches, pass rush, all of that. And then in terms of where we spend our money, I will take one Daron Payne, please. I would definitely even try to see if we can go after someone like Barkley. I would definitely trade, a 3rd round pick for a guy like a Mike Evans or a Hopkins, so we have that number 1 overall receiver who can go up and make jump ball catches, because that's what Fields is so good at. So basically just invest heavily in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Spend whatever we need to spend because we have gobbles of money, and then really fix the trenches on both sides. Give Fields a number 1 weapon where he can just throw the ball up and trust that his guys can catch it, and then just continue to develop an offense around Fields that actually fits his strengths a little bit more, and bring up in a backup quarterback like you were saying with the situation for the Jets. Bring in a backup quarterback. Maybe we could bring in Lamar Jackson maybe as a backup. I don't know. Somebody who fits sort of his play style. I'm joking, obviously. But, somebody who's more of a runner, like you're saying, who can fit that play style so we can really build a better
Tyrod Taylor or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
so let me ask you a question, Connor.
Yeah.
As a Bears fan, because there is rumblings about, because Justin Field isn't this team's, this GM's or head coach's pick. He was drafted by the previous regime. Would you be okay as a Bears fan with them trading Justin Fields and taking a quarterback number 1 overall? And if they do, who do you want?
I would.
For sure. So I think the city of Chicago would burn if they traded Justin Fields. In any scenario, I think the Bears this new front office that we've had just for the last year are very intelligent. They know how to play the media. They're very transparent when they want to be, and they're very opaque when they want to be. And I think this is all a media push to try to continue to drive up the value of that number 1 overall pick, and get the franchises, sweating, saying, "Oh, what if they do trade Fields, and then we're out for our guy, and then the Texans take their guy, and then boom, we're stuck with Levis as the only choice available to us, right?" So I think that's sort of what's happening there. If you actually watch Fields' tape from this past year, he is not a running back. I understand that he runs the ball a lot, but it wasn't by choice 95% of the time. They're not running like I would say they'd ran maybe like 2 or 3 design runs the entire game on the average game, right? These are all scrambles that he's making because our offensive line is horrible and we don't have a single receiver that can get open, right? He's moving around back there. Sometimes he has 7-8 seconds with the ball in his hands in the backfield, and not a single one of our receivers can get open that entire time, right? That's how dire our situation was throughout the year. And so I do think and he's amazing at throwing deep balls. He's amazing at throwing 50-50 balls. He doesn't mind making those throws. So I think if you can give him a guy that can go up and jump up and get it, that's why they tried to bring in Claypool, even though he was a complete, he hasn't done anything for us so far. But I think if we can bring in a number one guy to help support that roster, fix up the O-line, and then actually, give Justin Fields, put weapons around him, but more importantly, put him in a position where he can take advantage of his arm. I think we're going to see some really good throwing numbers out of Fields because he's accurate. I think his accuracy problems are with the little short throws. And that's something that he's talked about. He's going to work on a lot this offseason. But I think overall, he's a much, much better passer than the stats show. And yeah, the franchise would be absolutely insane to get rid of him. To be honest, I think one of the other factors in all of this is if there was a Trevor Lawrence in this draft, right? If there was an Andrew Luck, if there was one of these guys that's like, holy crap, this guy's, going to be the next Manning. He's the future. I think there would be a lot more serious discussion about it. But if I'm being honest, if I'm the Texans, if I'm the Colts, I know they're desperate to find their number one guy, but I can't say I'm that confident in either Stroud or in whose name am I forgetting here?
Young.
Yeah, Young. Stroud or Young to be a guy that's going to be, I think both of them have the potential to be franchise quarterbacks. I think a lot of it depends on what the situation they're in when they get in there. But I don't think either of them is going to turn into a Mahomes or an Allen or one of these guys that is going to be a perennial top 5 quarterback. So
no. Here's my comps from the 2 quarterbacks. Stroud is built more like Fields, and Young is built like a right-handed Tua. He's just small, Like Stroud is big. He's like 6'4". Like Fields is a lot bigger than people think he is.
Yeah.
And he showed in the college playoffs that he can run if they want him to. He just never did in college because they were showing off his arm. I think Stroud is the best of all of them, personally. I think he has the best chance to make it in the pros. But it's a freaking it's a roll of the dice with these quarterback prospects. You never know what you're going to get. Everyone thought Sam Darnold was a slam dunk.
Even Rosen
and Josh Allen was the biggest risk of them all.
Right.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and Rosen was pro ready. That was his thing.
Rosen,
pro ready, ready to go in and lead a team. Right? Like guys, 100%.
Connor, do Chicago fans and the media, they haven't had a good quarterback in a while. McMahon, you could throw,
Emmer, pretty much.
They have Rex.
Yeah.
They're Grossman.
Sexy Rexy,
baby.
They're Cutler.
Yeah. Jay Cutler was fun to watch.
Cutler, baby.
He had the arm talent. He wasn't special, but he had the arm talent.
They had the
I remember somebody said before the game, a defensive coordinator said, Cutler will be fine. He'll throw something to our guys. He'll throw something to his guys.
Yeah. I think the Cutler era is definitely just missed opportunities. We had some great defenses those years. We had some great offenses actually as well, but for some reason we could never put it together at the same time. And Cutler had those back-to-back years, 2011, 2012, where he got hurt. And I think that was really our window in the Cutler era. But yeah,
Triggs is right. By the way, Jay Cutler, if you guys don't know Jeff George, and I'm old school, Jeff George was a really good quarterback. He just had an attitude problem, and he wasn't.
He had a lot of talent.
He had
a lot of talent.
Well, that's what but Mikey, he was a really he couldn't put it together. He was a bad teammate. Like all that stuff comes into play. That's why I'm kind of worried with the Zach Wilson thing with the Jets. Like Zach Wilson has some talent there, but he's a bad teammate so far. He's throwing people under the bus. He's not doing the right thing. And not only that, you have to want to get better. You have to want to learn. You have to go out there in the offseason and like make yourself better, right? Like, put that on you. I don't know if Zach Wilson's that guy. That's why I kind of fear the Jets maybe need. And listen, it's not a bad thing. Arizona moved on from what's Rosen real quick, right? And I think in today's NFL, man, if I'm a GM, it is what it is, man. You draft a quarterback, he don't work out after 2 seasons, I'm not afraid to get rid of you. I'm not, because that could really kill your.
You have to see the growth.
Yeah,
like you look at Justin Fields. Year
okay.
1, you could take Josh Allen. The first 2 years, Josh Allen wasn't great, but you saw the growth.
Right. Exactly.
Justin Fields wasn't great year 1. You saw the growth this year.
Right.
You know, so if you see the growth, you continue giving him time. But if
you see
you're
the potential,
the growth, then it's cut bait.
Yeah, and I think the comparisons to Allen are good, and just that, year 1 it was rough, right? Just like for Fields. Year 2, you saw the growth through the running game, right? And that's where Allen really took advantage of his legs, and you're starting to see him develop in that way. And then they brought in Diggs, and I think that for the Bears, and as for Bears fans, that's why we're so hyper focused. As much as I know our GM is going to focus on the trenches, and I think he's going to do a really good job there, the Bears as a fan base are so hyper focused on that wide receiver position, because if we can get a guy in there who we know is going to be, 1,000-yard receiver come rain or shine, no matter who's throwing to him. It's going to be that developmental piece that Fields needs to take that step, like Josh Allen did in his 3rd year. And I think that's why Bears fans are excited. And if I'm being honest, right, like, okay, yeah, there's the whole meme, Justin Fields is a running back, haha. But honestly, he's faster and bigger than most running backs in the league. And he's been an absolute beast. He looks like Derrick Henry half the time out there when he gets in the open field.
But that will only last you so long, Connor. That's
exactly. But this is the scary part, is actually, in a lot of Bears fans, we talk about this. If you actually look at where Justin Fields was taking big hits last year, it wasn't on his big runs. He was getting hurt really bad in the backfield because our pass.
The same thing with Lamar Jackson. He gets hurt in the pocket.
Exactly.
And happened to Josh Allen this year. The Jets got Josh in the pocket and hurt his elbow.
Exactly.
It wasn't him running.
Yeah, and so I don't
throwing.
Exactly.
With Daniel Jones, every time he's gotten hurt, it's been running because he doesn't know how to slide.
Exactly. So I don't think there's
he's not as big as some of these other guys either. Daniel Jones.
Well, he's like 6'5", 230. So
is he that big and he gets hurt?
Yeah, he is.
It's because
Josh jumps over people.
But Josh looks bigger in frame though. He's a bigger, I think, wider. You know what I mean?
He's a farm boy.
Right.
Figures it out. I mean, really, that's what he is. He's he just got that stupid strength.
Yeah, for sure.
Connor, do you think? Let me ask you this: if your quarterback Fields turns into Cam Newton, like when his good old days, would you sign up for that? With the running and you
have to understand the
MVP
Bears and where we've been from the quarterback position. I would take that in a second. I think and I think if there's one thing that really makes is different between, like, Cam was a more physical runner, and so he took more hits. Fields has a much higher top end speed, right? And he's much more careful with his body when he's on the run overall. He's not trying to take big hits. You don't see him like diving into the end zone to take the big hit very often. So that's where I see, Fields is more conscientious about his body and taking care of his body, and he is a better deep ball thrower than Cam ever was. It's just the medium and short game where he needs to make a lot of progress still. And I think that's where wide receiver help, having guys that can actually get open is going to help him out a lot.
The rules are different nowadays too with the quarterback and what they do. We have to remember when Cam was in his heyday, the protection wasn't there for those guys like it is now.
Yeah, but I think there's also, and I think there is also an element there where the league gives a little bit more flexibility. You've seen it with Lamar, and now you're seeing it with Fields, where guys are getting cheap shots off, and they're not always calling the flag, right? Just because at a certain point it does become a kind of unfair if you can slide down like 1 foot in front of the defender after he's been chasing you all the way across the field, right? We will have to see how that plays out, and whether the refs are going to be consistent in calling those kind of penalties or not. But I do think, obviously there's a lot of hope, a lot of excitement in Chicago, despite being the worst team in the league. I do think that Fields has the potential to become that superstar guy, but it really depends here on what pieces they're able to put around him here. So we'll see. I'm very optimistic, obviously, about the Bears' future here. I do think that they're going to make some aggressive moves this offseason. They have all the money, all the picks to do it. But again, it really all comes back to, can we protect Fields? Can we give him a chance to take that next step or not? And then, from the defensive side of the ball, we need to completely revamp the front seven. So we'll see how close we can get to doing that in the offseason here. But yeah, sky's the limit.
Breaking news on my phone here. Jets inquire about Aaron Rodgers.
There it is.
Oh,
Tommy, have you not heard that? They've talked about that for the last week.
But it just came into my phone 1 minute. It just was updated.
Yeah, they're officially inquiring. There it
is. They officially requested
after the Super Bowl.
Yeah. He's taking. I mean, he really.
You know what? I hope Aaron goes to New York because I just see that becoming a train wreck.
Yeah,
I do. I see that.
I think the coach. I think Saleh and him are going to butt heads. I do not see.
He's not going to like the young receivers.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, I get Nate. I get Nate Hackett's there, but Nate Hackett was the quarterback coach, and he liked Nate Hackett because Nate Hackett made him laugh, not because he was great at football, because he made him laugh.
That's kind of true. Wait, guys,
you know what?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, stick with me here. Let's say Rodgers goes to the Jets, plays 1 or 2 seasons there. It becomes a train wreck, even though the team's super talented. Then he gets shipped off to the Vikings, where he plays amazingly, gets back to the NFC Championship.
Oh God!
Only to lose again. At that point, is the NFL scripted? We really have to ask.
You know what? If it really is scripted, I hope it is, because Von Miller came out and said he read an extra script. If it's scripted, I'm all good with it.
The Bills are going to win. That's the way the NFL scripted it. You got it, baby.
You know what? These guys are poo-pooing it. So next year, when we do the Opus tailgate party, it's going to be Bears, Jets, Super Bowl. You guys watch us next year.
Kev, we do a round table. We do an AFC East round table. We do not have a Jets guy. If you want to come, we talk about it. Please, we welcome you, buddy.
Hit me up.
Vice versa, bro. Vice versa. Yeah, you're gonna have to. And also,
we do cross with other teams all the time. Anytime, brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to you after. When we're done with the live, let me talk to you. All right, cool.
Absolutely. And also, Dig, I'm also a Giant here. My partner, Chef Dan, is a big Giant fan. We do show a lot of love to the Giants as well. Don't think it's just a Jet-centric. So I want to also, this is what makes it great about Opus. You talk to everybody around the whole country, around the whole world, and we come together for the love of sports. So, Connor, I know we didn't wrap up yet, but I want to thank you for that opportunity there. And man, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And real quick shout out, Rally Towel Sports. They're they have their own channel on YouTube. They also come on my channel on Wednesdays. They cover the Bengals, Steelers, really cool guys. So if you guys want to check them out too, if you guys ever want to holler at them during the season, and you got vice versa, awesome guys to work with, man. You guys can go out, like I said, collab. So Rally Towel Sports, just a little shout out to them, man. The good guys, man.
They've been in the chat all night.
Yep.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody who tuned in to check out our first ever Opus official sports stream and Super Bowl show. It was a great time chatting with you guys today. Can't wait to do more of these. Maybe we can do something ahead of free agency and the draft here, as well as we keep getting more sports creators involved. Lots to talk about as always. Had a great time with you guys here today. And can't wait to do more streams. Thanks everybody. And if you are out there, you like to stream, even if you're just playing video games by yourself and you want to try out Opus, please go on over to opus.pro. We're a brand new company and would love to get everybody and anybody out there who's interested in streaming going live, because live is fun. We had a lot of fun here today. For sure.
No doubt.
It's a fun platform. It's a fun platform. So thank you, Connor. We appreciate this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
Honored to be on it this early.
For
sure. Man. Yep. The guinea pigs. And I like it, man. I do. Honestly, has a getting good feedback. So
yeah. It's pretty funny. I think if we had one breakdown today that was pretty clear, it's that all of the AFC people here want the Eagles to win, and all of the NFC people here seem to want the Chiefs.
That's the way it should be. We don't want to see the Chiefs. I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to win. We don't want to see them win.
Yeah, I don't
want to see it. We don't want to hear those fan bases next year.
Definitely not. I want them in there crying in their misery, just on Twitter, whining all off season. Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's the one. Over and under. How many poles are greased in Philadelphia tonight?
I was just about to say that. I was going to say either way, no matter what happens, the city of Philadelphia is going to be destroyed today.
Yeah, exactly.
All I know was wrecked last time.
It's going to be
$2 million destroyed of joy
or rage.
Exactly.
Either way,
right.
Get the horse manure ready.
Hey, I mean, I'm from LA. We did
I'm the Philly menu.
Destroying the city after you win is, it's a time-honored tradition here in America. So
that's a weird thing. I never.
Yeah, I
don't get to destroy. We win, so let's cause a lot of damage.
Burn this motherfucker down.
You say that. If Bills ever won the Super Bowl, you would be out there on this.
No, but I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. We hadn't won one in my lifetime until we won back in 2010. I wasn't like, oh, let me destroy something. I was happy.
Right.
If the city was smart, they just if the Bills ever did win and they don't want that to happen, just throw out a bunch of tables. Just let them say, hey, man. Right. You're going to break her. So just break all these. They're free of charge. Just line them up in the street. But they'll catch fire.
Every door.
They're going to take the tables and throw them through building windows, I'm sure. So maybe that's a bad idea.
I mean, it's easy
to say, Tommy, take out the tables.
Great idea, Tommy. Now city's on fire.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. That actually might not be a bad idea. I mean, you always expect sports fans to be civil, and they are until they win everything, and then all bets are off. Honestly, I mean,
Buffalo won't burn. Orchard Park will burn.
I mean, they were looting the Dollar Tree during the last snowstorm, during that big snowstorm in Buffalo. If they're willing to loot a dollar store, winning the Super Bowl, I don't know. Maybe things will get a little bit more wild than you expect.
Loot something? Really? The dollar store is what you decide to loot?
I know that was
dollar store.
I was like, at least here in LA, we have the decency to loot Louis Vuitton on the riot.
What's the total loss there? $20,000? Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So good. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. I'll let you guys go enjoy your Super Bowls now. For everybody tuned in again, thank you so much. Can't wait to do another stream soon. Thanks again.
Go
Bills.
Yep. Go Bears.
Let's go Jets.
Go Bills. Go Bills. Go Bills. Go Bills.
Jets. And
Bills.
Sucks.
Later, guys.
Yeah.